So, but it's because I work with, so the group that I really work with is changing the mindset and of teachers. That I think that group is the most important to me, in terms of getting them to appreciate the fact that they still have scope to enhance their pedagogical practices. And today afternoon, that's what I'm going to be talking about. And so I just came back from Antigua yesterday night, and so my work with Latin America and Southeast Asia, and India also, in particular.
Why don't we meet after this
That's
session?
awesome. That'll
Let's
be great.
not
Yeah,
postpone a good
that's
thing.
great. That's great. Yeah. And of course, I'll also try to set up a meeting with you. Where are you located? Where's the office located?
In Roslyn,
In Roslyn. Okay. Okay. That's great. So maybe in a week or so, can I send you?
I will be gone for 3 weeks starting
Okay.
tomorrow, but
Great.
I'll be back on the 23rd.
Great. Okay. Okay. That sounds good. Thank you.
I'm going to get a little organized here.
This room number is 2.
So we learned all the different competitions, a lot of failures, successes, but there was a very strong supporting NSF community for us. And it's a great impact to students within the United States and within India. So you are in the right place, and my daughter was able to win a couple of science fair projects. She was starting to involve in science since, again, as I said, first grade. So this year she won the Davidson Scholarship, which is $50,000 scholarship. She won the Regeneron STS Scholarship. Again, this is for her science fair, using artificial intelligence to diagnose glioblastoma and to diagnose diabetic retinopathy. She has a patent. She was invited by the VP for Amazon in a AWS conference to present. She was invited to the Nobel Prize Awards. She was also invited to talk at the Artificial Intelligence over the AI conference, and a lot of perks that came, and it has been a beautiful journey for her where she's now trying to knock out and reach out to the community. She herself is holding an artificial intelligence conference for 350 high school students. She was able to raise $48,000 from Amazon, Facebook, Google, and now she's trying to give back to the community. So you guys are in the right place. Please pursue NSF Science Beats, whether you make it to nationals, you win or you don't, it's okay. And I think 8-9 years ago, NSF Nationals was held in Maryland, University of Maryland, and at that year, my daughter did not make it to nationals, but her younger brother made it to nationals. And I still remember she was sitting here and in tears that she did not make it to nationals. But now, she has had a great journey through her education. So please believe in NSF, and you will all be successful in different ways. So thank you so much.
You've all heard the saying, give a man a fish and he'll eat for a day. Teach a man how to fish and he'll eat for a lifetime. But can you tell me who said? Changemakers are not satisfied with just giving a man a fish or teaching a man how to fish. They are not content, and so they've changed the whole fishing industry. That's right. It's our next guest, our chief guest of the day, Dr. Phil Brady. I'd like to invite Dr. Chituri up to the stage to introduce Dr. Brady.
Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Good. Okay. Thank you for coming. We really appreciate it. And I know it is not a contest. It's just a meeting, but you will be rewarded. You will feel it's what's sitting here. It's different. The topic will be different. We're not talking about academics, math, science, or geography, public speaking. This is much different. So bear with me. Dr. Bill Drayton, we're fortunate to have him here. He's a very busy person. It's very hard to get a hold of him, and his schedule just doesn't permit. And we managed to get him. We appreciate it. Thank you very much, sir. And I'll just say a few words. Before we get to him, he's the founder of and CEO of Ashoka. Ashoka, that's name India, right? Ashoka the king, the famous king. Before that, I want to do a quiz. Okay? Go to the next slide. How do we go to the next slide? See how many of you can answer. You know who this person is? That's okay. Go to the next one. Do you know who this person is? And next one. Okay? Right? He went to villages, right? He said, I have come to Ruchi with law. If you have your son, 4 sons, consider me as the 5th son. and give me my share. It's one step. And the person who did that is Vinoba Bhave. Did you say that? Vinoba Bhave. He was the greatest man. He walked village to village for 13 years. 13 years, he asked people who were landowners to give up 1/6 of their land, give it to the poor. He did that. He didn't know these villagers. He went to different states. He didn't even know the language. He would have somebody translate the language, right? Somehow the village people get together, and he appeals to them. He appeals to them. We are poor people, we need to help them. And he did that. A lot of land, thousands and thousands and thousands of acres. He took it out from the people who owned the land to the people who didn't own the land. And you can go to Google. Children, please go to Google. Okay? Type that name. Vinoba Bhave. Right? You will get wonderful history. We need to know our own history. Right? After Bill Braden, he had an opportunity. The reason I showed those pictures, he had an opportunity to walk with Vinoba Bhave in his Buddha Yajna, and it made a deep impression on him. And even before that, long before that trip to India, when he was in school, he went to the library. And he went to the library, books on India. Somehow he was interested in India. He learned a lot about India. And let me see. Oh, then I can see you. Okay. Empathy, curiosity, and passion, they defined his life. That's his life journey in the very, very beginning. He founded, and he went to Harvard for undergrad, and he founded Ashoka Table. As an undergrad. And when he went to Yale for law school, he founded Yale Legislative Services while in law school. Then he worked for McKinsey. How many of you know McKinsey and Company? Raise your hand. It is the world's renowned company, management consulting company in the world, bar none, even today. And he worked there for 10 years. Then he was recruited to the President Carter's administration. Children, how many of you heard about President Carter? Raise your hand. You should know. He's still alive, right? He's in Atlanta, close to Atlanta. He has a lot of community centers, a lot of centers. You go to Google, search on him, what he does, basically still. So he worked under Carter administration. How many of you know carbon footprint? Raise your hands. Climate change. And he's the man who created the whole idea of carbon trade. Even today, the whole world follows that. So we're fortunate to have his vision and create that. He founded Ashoka in 1980. And he was himself is a what's called MacArthur Fellow from the MacArthur Foundation. He got some money, and he turned around, and with that money, the first Ashoka Fellow was given in India. In India, first one. And over the years, the foundation, he gave 4,000 Ashoka Fellows. 4,000 Ashoka Fellows. Each of them is a social entrepreneur. How many of you know the word business entrepreneurs? Right? They are the ones who start new idea, new companies, make money, right? Social entrepreneurs is the other side, right? They're not in there to make money. They're there to change things, right? They change things. Change the things that you don't like, change them. You all know, right? Day-to-day life. There's some things you don't like. Some things that are are not good, that we should change the society. And that's the whole idea of social entrepreneurs. 4,000 of them. 4,000 people over the last 35 years. Amazing story. 400 of them are in India. And over half of the people, these 4,000 people, what they did in their work had implications to national policy. Now, Ashoka works in, I think it's over 60 countries all over the world. And Dr. Bill Drayton, he won they call Spain prestigious Prince Asturias, I don't know if I'm saying right, Asturias Award, and commonly described as Spain Nobel. He won that award. And he popularized. He literally popularized. The word social entrepreneurship was there for a long time. He's the man who popularized all over the world. There are books written on him, there are articles written on him all the time, and then also he created the concept. He created and spread everyone a change maker. That everyone can change. Every one of us did that. And we have the capability of doing it. And that. Now, it's kind of vision. Is that right? Please correct. And vision is create youth change maker. Youth change maker. You don't have to be an adult to change the world. You can be youth, you can still change the world. So I hope the Lord that you can go from Spanish Nobel to Swedish Nobel. And welcome Dr. Bill Drayton.
The wave of technology. So we're talking about change making, and you just listen to one of your change makers. Everyone here has benefited because everyone had a vision. And he working with so many people here built that vision. Everyone here is contributing to it. Everyone here is leading the Indian American community here, having a big impact in India and here. And anyone can have a vision if you give yourself permission, and if you then persist. And so that's really the story. So thank you. Is he still not working? So let me, I think we all realize that we're at a very profound turning point. One of probably the biggest that humanity has been through. Still not working?
I think we can put it a little bit closer.
I can probably eat the thing. We know this is a transition point. And when you get to a transition point, it's a big mistake to miss it. And when you see it, on the other hand, and grab it, you have such an opportunity. And that's what the Everyone a Changemaker revolution is about. The world historically was defined. Value was created by efficiency in repetition. Law firms, assembly lines. The old idea was you
give people a skill, barber, banker, whatever, and then they repeat it for life. And well, the workplace had a lot of walls. That was very efficient as long as there's very little change. But that is not the world we live in. We live in an everything changing faster and faster world, all the pieces interconnected and bouncing off one another. Now, we're going to go into this a little bit more deeply, but we're in that game. We don't have any choice. This is a fact. We're here. And if that means that everything about every aspect of our lives individually and organizationally has changed. So it's absolutely critical for every young person, for everybody, but especially for young people who by definition are going to be living in this world as it continues to evolve faster and faster, to be change makers, to be givers, to be powerful, to be change makers. The world used to be baseball. Now it's chess. If you go onto the playing field prepared to be a great baseball player, you're in big trouble because no one's playing that game and you don't know how to play chess. That is where we are. And so for parents here, you'd be worried if a member of your family was illiterate, couldn't read or write. You'd be very concerned. Are you as concerned now whether or not your son or daughter is practicing change making, knows that she is a change maker? So that's the new responsibility of parents. And for young people here, are you being a change maker now? That's the single most important question. So let me start. Now, I don't know how to turn this thing on. Govind. Thank you. This is a young woman who does have her power.
My favorite quote of all time is, before a 1,000-mile journey, you always have to take a small step. And I took that small step with the co-founder of the Health Hygiene Foundation. My name is Malika Ravel. I'm from Charlotte, North Carolina. I'm 16 years old, and the name of my initiative is the Health Hygiene Foundation. This idea really started when I visited India for the first time. The local villages that I went to go visit, where my parents were brought up, they didn't know how important it was to keep your hands clean before eating food, or how to stop transmitting contagious diseases between each other. And it was really saddening just to see these people go through such challenges, and of me being the same culture and speaking the same language as them, I felt a really deep connection with them, and I wanted to help them as soon as I could. We both started by having a drive outside of my house. So it was just a shoe and toiletry drive. We just were looking to see what would happen, and the results were amazing. And after having a support system in the United States, we were able to realize this is the time. We need to do this now. We need to go to India and open Project Health Hygiene India, the chapter over there. So last December, we went to India. We were able to donate over 650 packets, amounting to around over 5,000 toiletries and 650 pairs of shoes. In all of these places, we discussed with the people about how to maintain their personal hygiene standards, and we were giving them the resources to actually continue maintaining their hygiene standards. Right now, we currently have 50 to 60 members, and by the next year, we want to increase this to over 100 members. And we are setting such goals every year so that we can really include many other youth change makers in our foundation, and we can tell them about opportunities where they can volunteer or take their own initiative and create something of their own as well. It's time for us all to lead young.
So Malika is one of the Ashoka Young Change Makers, and she is working with us, co-leading, building the Everyone a Change Maker world. And this is really an invitation for everyone here to give yourself permission and then have the persistence. That's all it requires. This is not astrophysics. See a problem, imagine what you could do about it, give yourself permission, and know that doing that is giving you the skills that you absolutely have to be able to contribute in the world we are now living in. It's not the world of the past, it's a completely different world. And Malika, you could feel it. She has her power. She knows that. She has got a team of other kids. They've had an idea, a dream, a team, and she's changed her world, and she knows that. She also knows that the world is always going to want her because she has the most important skill. Oh, give me a problem. I will solve that. We'll create a team, we'll solve it, or an opportunity. That's what really counts. All the skills are going away. You know, the Watson technology is going to remove half of what doctors and nurses do in the next 5 years. You know what's happening to truck drivers. You think you're going to be a bank officer? Forget it. Alibaba has a self-correcting algorithm that does all the lending, and they get better results. They have a 0.87 failure to repay rate versus the acknowledged Chinese average of 0.95. And they have 0 lending officers and 0 managers of the non-existent lending officers. And the customers get decisions right away. It literally, in 2 or 3 minutes. Dear Alibaba, I'd like to borrow $7,000. Oh, hello. And by the time you go back and forth, they've checked everything they can find about you, and they say, oh, you buy toothpaste every Tuesday morning, regular person, worth a loan. And if it turns out that that correlation doesn't really work, then it corrects. Well, we all know these stories. That's the negative side of the transition. Here are 2 very fundamental facts. Since 1700, the rate of change and the degree and extent of interconnection have been going up exponentially. That's a mathematical fact. And then there's a second fact. Since 1700, the demand for repetition is plunging downward. It's going away. The whole model of education as giving a skill that you repeat for life is completely obsolete and counterproductive. And everyone has to have what Malika has. She knows, she absolutely knows correctly that the world will always want her because she has the most important critical skill. She can understand the world, she can see an opportunity, she can see a need, and she knows how to bring people together and iteratively, constantly change and improve the idea and the methodologies of how to get there. Now, everyone in this room, if to whatever degree you need to strengthen those skills, that's the most important work because those curves are exponential. So let me ask you 2 questions. And these are 2 more facts, and the question in each case is why. So income distribution everywhere in the world is getting worse. So the rich are getting richer, the poor are getting poorer. And that's true for every country, regardless of the nature of the economy or the ideology of the country. So why is that happening? Second fact, all across the world, the political systems are falling apart as us versus them politics takes over. We have that problem here, the Philippines has it, it's spreading. So why is that? So we're in the middle of this amazing transition period. And maybe a half of the world is in the new game, and they're doing really well. Malaka is going to have a wonderful life. She's going to be able to express love and respect in action. She's going to be able to help people. She's always going to be helping and wanted. That's what brings health and happiness. That's what all the philosophers and the scientists tell us. So the people who are in the new game, they're having a very good time. It's very interesting, and the nature of this society is it's a fluid, no walls anymore, open. People come together from anywhere, geographic, subject matter-wise, because they're the right team for this idea. Fluid, open team of thousands of teams. Well, that, you have to have a very high level of skills to be able to do that. And the people who are in this game, they have those skills, and they're helping one another get better at it. As the game accelerates, the people who are in the game are helping everyone else in the game be good at it. Well, this is great for that part of society. It's absolutely fabulous. I mean, you can tell the energy in Malaka's face. Now, the problem is that there's the other half of humanity, and they're not in the game, and they don't have the skills. And this is the new inequality that's dividing the world between those people who are in the game of change, who are change makers, and those who are not in the game. The new inequality. So the old inequalities are still there, gender and race and religion and all that. But this is not only new, this is the defining division now, and it's different from the old divisions because it gets worse every year. The people in the game get better and better as change makers, and the people out of the game are falling further and further behind, and that gap is accelerating every year. So we are creating a world that is profoundly, deeply divided and getting more divided every year. And we're experiencing what that means. This is really terrible. It's ethically wrong. And it's, you know, if we end up with a world divided between the people who can play and the people who are out, the costs of that are unimaginable. So we have an ethical responsibility and a practical need to make sure that the people who are out of the game, we pull them into the game. We have to remove the new inequality. Now, the North-South Foundation is right at the heart of this. Everyone here cares about learning, cares about community, cares about what's happening in India and here. And everyone here has chosen to be a leader. So we need to work together to tear down the new inequality and to make sure that everyone, the people in village India, should not be left behind. They will be unless they are able to play in the new game of change. And so this is a challenge for the best schools and every school in India. How do we make sure that every young person is a change maker? So let me tell you one other story. I don't have a video for this, but we have a program for any young person who has a dream to help them build the team and succeed. So we had a meeting of about 350 of these young people at Georgetown. Georgetown gave us a part of their campus. I sat down at lunch, and this very tiny young woman came down and sat to my right. And she introduced herself and very quickly said, "I'm 12. So I asked her, well, you know, what's your venture? She said, my brother is autistic. And all through school, I would cry when he was mistreated. But now we've fixed that. Oh, well, how did you do that? Well, we get together whenever we see a special student who's not being treated well, and we figure out what to do, and then we go and do it, and we're very persistent. Now, that's 90% her words, that was her gesture. And if you'd been there, you would know, just as you know with Malika, that this young woman has her power. She has had a dream, she's built a team, she's changed her school. And she is going to have a very powerful, good life as a giver, as a change maker. And she's brought all those other kids along with her. Now, I asked her one other question. How many student groups are there in Shirley Middle School? Oh, over 50. Now, how many middle schools do you know anywhere in the world that have 50 student groups? Elite schools. Shirley is a poor rural community. There's nothing elite about this. But they decided that there was one person there, Phil Berwinski, he decided that this was necessary, that the plastics industry left this area, nothing came, and so people flee as fast as they can. They graduate from school and they go away. And it's the classic Appalachian syndrome. And he understood that if someone is a change maker, they don't have to go away. In fact, if there's a whole bunch of people who are change makers, the area becomes a magnet. You reverse the whole thing. So he's changed 16 townships. Every middle and high school has somewhere between 40 and 80 student groups. And when this young woman walked into Shirley Middle School, she walked into an everyone a change maker culture. It was the norm, not a very difficult exception. The kids were competent. They knew how to do this. She walked in, she had a problem. People said to her, "You've got a problem, think of a solution, build a team, look around, that's what everyone does. And oh, by the way, come and join us and use our services." And her friends were doing that. So she walked in at age 11 to a competent, everyone a change maker culture, which is the world she is going to have to live in as an adult. She didn't work into an industrial model of transmitting a lot of information and not having mayhem in the hallways. So, you know, that's what principals are now required to do. They're measured on information transfer and orderliness. Where is change making? Where are the 4 skills that are needed for this? Well, in Shirley, they have it. And so all the kids have what this young woman has. So now what are these 4 skills? The first is cognitive empathy, based living for the good of all. Now, this is not just mirror neurons, I feel your pain empathy. It's that plus the cerebral cortex. It's the two working together, mirror neurons and cerebral cortex, understanding this world, all these contexts that are so different. And if you don't consciously understand the contexts, you're going to hurt people and you're going to disrupt groups, and you can't contribute in this new game. This is the first generation ever where the rules will not allow you to be a good person. Up to now, if you diligently followed the rules, you'd be fine. It doesn't work anymore. The rules don't exist. They're in conflict. The rate of change keeps accelerating. The proportion of life covered by rules keeps going down. If you don't have cognitive empathy and you aren't consciously understanding this, you are going to hurt people, you're going to disrupt groups. And if you hurt me, I don't care if you're the greatest astrophysicist in the world, I want you out of my life, and anyone who looks like you, I'm going to be very suspicious about. You can see that happening around you. That's part of the architecture of the new inequality. That's what's really happening. That's just the first of the skills. Then you have to have very sophisticated teamwork for this very different type of teamwork. fluid, open teams of teams. And then you've got to have an opposite type of leadership. It's not being smarter than everyone else and setting up a repetitive pattern. You know, Henry Ford and all those people. Okay, you envisage. Then you have to envisage a team and how it can work together. And the moment you do that, everyone on the team is envisaging and structuring. It's a much more powerful type of leadership. But it's really different. You have to learn it. And then change making itself. So ask everyone here, how are you doing on the 4 skills? How are the kids you really care about doing? And this is, I think, one of the big opportunities for Ashoka and the North-South Foundation. North-South has always been about the best, excellence, service. Let's make sure that everyone in the Indian American community here and in India is a change maker, is a giver, is powerful. So thank you very much for what you're doing. It's an incredibly important leadership role. And I'd love to, if anyone has any thoughts, questions, comments, over to you. Well, if just to give you a chance to think about this for a minute, let me give you another story. I thought, how do we see these patterns so clearly? Well, the 4,000 Ashoka Fellows are designing the new architecture. So let me give you a story of a fellow I was just talking to yesterday, Bright Simon. So Bright is a Ghanaian, and he became aware of a rather serious problem. He's now working in India and Latin America as well. According to Interpol, the International Police, 80% of the pharmaceuticals being sold in Lagos, Nigeria are fakes. So you have a 1 in 5 chance of getting an actual legitimate pharmaceutical. A lot of this stuff is coming from China. So he noticed that people have cell phones. He said, oh, how we could solve this problem. So it took 2 years to negotiate, but now you can take your cell phone and take a picture of the barcode, and you'll get a text message back from the pharma companies, free phone, this is legit, this is a fake. Well, this has a profound impact on health. It has a profound impact on people being citizens. When you're constantly being cheated, the whole corruption thing, this makes you powerless. It makes you furious once you start being powerful. Now, so he's taken this for pharmaceuticals and spread it across Africa, South Asia, and now into Latin America. He's also gone to auto parts. Fake auto parts are not very good for your health either. And now seeds for farmers. Fake seeds are not a great thing either. So this is one person who gave himself permission to see a problem, to imagine a solution, and look at the impact he's having on health, but equally important on undermining the whole corruption system. This is the power of light. You put information in people's hands, they can stop it. Now, every single person in this room could have conceived of that idea. And that's what we're really urging, that every single person, please give yourself permission to see those problems. They're there. You can choose the problems, ample supply, and figure out a solution. It'll take, you'll have to be iterated and work at it, but you can do this. And then it's so much fun. You talk to Malika or Bright, this is the best. And so if you want a really brilliant life for yourself, for anyone you love or care about, and for the broader society, this is what we've got to do.
questions you can answer.
Oh, okay, great.
Q&A.
Does anyone have any questions? Yeah.
Thank you for the wonderful talk. And you nicely said about the binary system. You know, people that are rich, people that are poor, people are change makers, and people who don't have the willingness to participate in or have the commitment, they may go on the other side. Would you please comment on one of the most important competencies as an educator? One of my principal jobs is to tell people about the importance of failure.
Of what?
Failure. Failure as a path to success for these change makers. So, how important is failure to become a change maker?
So, you saw the pictures of Vinoba Bhave at the beginning. Let me add that Gandhi called Vinoba his guru. And in 1942, when the Quit India movement came, Gandhi asked Vinoba to go to jail first and Nehru second. Now, this is very special, and if you were walking with him, I walked with him in what was then called Orissa, and this was like walking with a medieval saint in one sense, but one of the most modern people you could imagine in another sense. He collected land gifts equal to the size of the entire state of New Jersey. In India, the land is not that much land. And he was also, by the time I was working with, he was getting village gift. So we would walk in, before it was light, across the fields to the next set of villages, be, a palm arch, a cacophonous band meeting at the, and then he would have a prayer meeting with only the children, no adults. After which the constructive workers would go out to all the surrounding villages. And my favorite was a woman who, and she would sit and talk to the leaders of this village and suggest that they make village gift. And this was set up under the laws of all the different states. And when a village did, the constructive workers would come and reallocate land and introduce new farming techniques, et cetera, et cetera. Classic, but so much more powerful. And so this is an example of someone who clearly was a person of faith, but who was having a profound effect. And, if you look at anyone who, think about Bright Simon. He comes from a West African Christian tradition. I don't know what his faith is, but he is a person of faith. He believes that he is bringing people freedom. And the health part is really important. But he was just describing what was happening. He was actually in India when I was talking with him yesterday. And working with farmers on the seeds business, now farmers are standing up and, oh, well, let's do this, and we've got this problem, et cetera, et cetera. So faith is a very broad word, but to live your life for the good of all, expressing love and respect in action, I think all the prophets would understand that. Is that responsive?
Thank you.
If parents, children here, if they want to pursue this further, with Ashoka, we will need to maybe conduct a workshop online
Absolutely. One of the things that we could do, this video you just saw of Malika, we're developing a series of them, and we're also developing them in India, in Sweden, in Brazil, etc. So that what you just saw is part of a 5-story series that can go to any school for use on their intranet. In India, it's more common to be used in an assembly. And so actually one of the young Ashoka changemakers in Bangalore, Garvita, she has a different student every week take one of these stories and lead a discussion in the assembly. And then she has ambassadors that have now brought this out to some 45 schools in Bangalore and another 15 or so in other cities and expanding. So we could easily have, this is a tool we can make available to North-South. We also have behind it something called peer-to-peer allies. So people like Malika are ready to help other young people who have a dream, want to build a team, want to change their school, neighborhood, community. It's just what the name says. Now, no one is telling either young person that they have to do anything. But if they want to connect, Malika is ready to help. And I think there's so much more we could do, but those are 2 concrete examples.
Follow-up question to the parents. If the Ashoka is agreed to provide workshop, how many of you would like to participate in the workshop? Raise your hands. Good. Thank you. That's good enough. Thank you all.
I know Ashoka is working in many different countries across the globe. How similar or dissimilar are the problems the change makers are working on across the world? Are the problems in Africa same as in India? Are there synergies that the change makers in one country can use in collaborating with change makers in other countries? And how is Ashoka providing the platform or helping them achieve these synergies?
So just let me quickly repeat the question. To what degree are the problems universal or different, and to what degree does the Ashoka community, are the ideas, are we able to work together, the ideas? So the central fact is that this change from repetition to change, 2 different opposite organizing principles for society, that is affecting the whole world. No one can escape it. Those are facts. That's the biggest set of changes, and that means, for example, that every young person everywhere in the world is faced with this choice. Are you going to be a change maker or not? If not, you're on the wrong side of the new inequality, and there's no role for you. That's pretty grim. That's very, very profound. Any society that fails to make sure that all their kids today are change makers, all the rest doesn't matter. And so about 1/3 of the Ashoka Fellows are focused primarily on kids, and many of the others, if you're dealing with rural development or debt slavery or whatever, you're dealing with kids also. But 1/3 are primarily focused on kids. And from the beginning, 90 to 95% put kids in charge. Many, many, many different ways. Math scores go up, language scores go up, bullying rates go down. That's virtually the only thing the traditional school systems measure. But that's true everywhere. It's true in Brazil and Poland and Japan. Now, there are differences. So probably the area of the biggest difference is the family. Family structures are different in the Middle East than they are in the US, and they're They vary inside the U.S. That's probably the area where there's the greatest difference. So the fellows work together, and this is so powerful. You know Kejriwal. We elected him as a fellow in 2004. Anti-corruption work. About 6 years ago, he decided that it was time to move from the social sphere, social entrepreneuring, into politics. And as you know, he won 67 out of 70 seats in Delhi and caused the political system a rather major shock, which may have contributed to the 86% currency withdrawal. In Brazil, 2 presidents have been impeached. A third one is sitting in jail. The current incumbent is probably going to end up in jail. 100 political leaders have lost their positions. The head of the largest construction company is 2 years into his 20-year jail sentence. This is a revolution in both countries. What Bright Simon is doing, these are different parts of a phenomenon that's a part of the world. Now people are change makers. They're powerful. They don't want this anymore. And so the part of the world that is change makers, this is the end of the corruption system. These are very profound changes. Now, what Bright Simon is doing is using the power of light. Here's another example. This is from South America. Felipe Vergara. He's looked at the education system, said the way it's funded doesn't make any sense at all. The government has money. There's no market clearing mechanism to determine how many places or what type of places or where they should be. So you end up with too few places in the wrong places, the wrong subjects, and then there's no market clearing to allocate a scarce resource to lots of people who want it. So I can tell you what happens. I stay on Marine Drive when I'm in Mumbai with a very close friend. His father created 9 law colleges in Bombay. And I would say every 5th or 6th dinner, someone comes to dinner, and it's always at the end of the dinner, it goes like this, to the father. You know my niece Poonam? Yes, she's a lovely young woman. Well, she's quite analytic. Maybe she'd be a good lawyer. Oh, that's interesting. Why don't you have her come and see me? And then she gets a place in one of the colleges. And then there's a favor sort of owed in return. In Nigeria, this is all monetized. It's much clearer. But now, when young people go into those places, they know how they got there. They know how everyone else got there. So this is the root cause of the immediate corruption and of creating an expectation of corruption. Now, so what Felipe has done is say, let's do better. So he's set up a series of for-profit human capital funds, and they invest in students. So there's a fund for students with disability in Mexico, for undergraduates in Peru, et cetera, et cetera. And he's now 11 years into it. The first 2 funds have had a 10% return. So once this is proved a bit further, this will be billions of dollars flowing in through a new channel. The scarcity goes away. Anyway, so dealing with the economics, bringing the power of light to bear, attacking the corruptors. These are all different ways of serving the anti-corruption effort, which is a part of the Everyone a Changemaker revolution. Now, these people are all in different parts of the world. They were elected at different times, but their work fits together.
Thank you.
Some. Thank you. So what is the mindset? It's not terribly complicated. Give yourself permission. So as a parent, what can you do? You know that your 12-year-old daughter is going to come home probably soon and say something like, no one listens to us, this is really irritating. Or a lot of kids are having trouble with math. Or. Put everything down, put your arm around her. I am so proud of you for seeing that problem. Well, what do you think you could do to fix it? Draw her out. That's a really interesting idea. Well, why don't you get your friends together and go and do it? You can do it, and this is what will give you the skills that you can contribute. Now, any parent can do that, and what will happen is that not much to begin with, but the next problem and the next problem will come, and the fourth or fifth time, your daughter's going to come back with a plan. And then you've got one big challenge. Don't take over. Don't let anyone else take over. It's got to be her dream, her team, her change. Then she's got it. And it's not very complicated. So the mindset is overcoming the existing mindset of a world of repetition. The whole system is set up to learn something and repeat it. This is the exact opposite of what you need to do in a world where everything is changing faster and faster and everything is, I mean, it's completely wrong. But that's what the youth culture is about, that's what the education system is about, and still large parts of the economy, the parts that are failing, but still large parts of it. And so what was the second part again? I'm going to jump to social entrepreneurs for a moment. There are 3 different levels of impact. Direct service. You need the teacher in the classroom teaching. Pattern change. That's where entrepreneurs come in. Bright Simon is changing a pattern. Felipe Vergara is changing a pattern. They're not doing direct service, except in service of the pattern. And then there's mindset change. And as you move from direct service to pattern change to mindset change, the impact per unit of effort goes up dramatically. So that's the first thing. What game are you in? And then, how do you, if you're in direct service, you may not want to scale. You're satisfied. You're doing a great thing in life by helping 30 or 60 kids a year grow up. And that brings you great happiness. We need the teachers. I don't mean to say anything negative, but by the time you get to entrepreneurs, then you really have to be talking frame change, pattern change, and it's about how to change the system. So you got to not do things that are not on the critical path. So Felipe Vergara, to take that example, he's created these funds. He knew that he had to demonstrate that they would be profitable, and that would take 10 years. Well, now he's showing that. The next step is to get some private, which he's negotiating, private label funds from some relatively courageous banks, and then the thing will spread. So he's had that strategy. Bright Simon had a different strategy because he has a different solution. He had to get free phone service. The pharma companies love this because, now they can fight against the Chinese competitors with the fakes. So they're all in. So it took him 2 years to negotiate to put this thing together. So, again, there's nothing terribly clever about this, but it's giving yourself permission to see a problem. And this is why anyone in middle school can do this. You can see Malika learning here. It's fascinating. She actually has 3 or 4 different approaches, and she keeps inventing new ones every couple of months. Well, that's normal. And it's also very contagious for the people around them. She's alone. She's the only person in her school. It's very lonely when you're doing this at the moment. So the North-South Foundation has created a universe where you're not lonely by being exceptional and serious. Well, so Ashoka Young Changemakers and Youth Ventures, that's a community of people. So Garvita in Mumbai was one of the people who interviewed the U.S. Ashoka Young Changemaker candidates, where Malika was chosen. The peer group is really, really important, especially when you're breaking out into new ground. Is that responsive?
Okay, so first of all, I want to thank you for your presentation. It really taught us a lot about change making. So my question for you is, how do we start? Like, I think we can all get lost in how to be a change maker. So what should the first steps to becoming a change maker be?
So let me ask you a question in return. What is the thing that you care about most?
Well, I really care about the country where my parents came from, India. And whenever I go there, I see poverty and people don't have houses, people are displaced. So that's something I really care about.
Well, you've just got 80% of the solution. You care about this, you see it, so what do you think you could do? This is exactly what happened with Malika.
I guess I could go there and try to find a way to find a solution. Yeah.
Why? Absolutely. The video will be about you next year. If you want to talk to Malika, it's easy. We'll give you her email. This is great. Congratulations. More?
Well, thank you for answering my question. It's nice to meet you.
Likewise. Anyone else? Okay.
Thank you everyone for attending. Thank you, Dr. Drayton, for taking your time to tell us about how to be a change maker. That's the conclusion for our session here today. Thank you everyone. And be sure to be here at 11 o'clock tomorrow for Sri Ramachandra session as well. Thank you.
And thank you. Good.
That's awesome. Very nice.
Great, and I just wanted to, you're a huge inspiration for me personally. My name's Amisha. I actually started my own nonprofit 2 years ago, focusing on social entrepreneurship in India and fostering all of that in Odisha specifically. So I've really looked up to Ashoka and all the different adventures that you guys have had over the past however many years.
So we should be in touch. You, can I get you?
It was marvelous. Sorry, the presentation was marvelous, and the last moment was terrible.
Yes, well, thank you.
Can I get the email address?
Yes, absolutely. I don't have it with me, but...
or maybe you can just give me your email address?
Yes. Let me do the following. So this is Claire. So I'm going to be gone for 3 weeks, but Claire Fallander is the person who produces these videos, and she's and what you're looking for is Malika.
Yeah.
So Claire, if I'm not going to be there for 3 weeks, so if you write Claire, she'll connect you with Malika.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
That's a great
Are you going to? Do you have a?
You wanna, yeah.
Yes, that'd be great.
Can I get this thing off?
Oh yes.
It did actually.
Very discreetly.
She has a question if you.
Yes. Hi. Well, when I was in elementary school, I was not very good at football because I'm too small, and I didn't really like Latin or math very much. So those were not big avenues, and starting things was fun. And it started with a student newspaper, which was hand-typed. And it grew. It was just a lot of fun.
Fine even delay పోతుందంట వాళ్ళు ఇంకా 8 కంటెస్టెంట్స్ జడ్జెస్ పెట్టి ఎన్నికలు 130 అయిపోతుందన్నమాట అది పబ్లిక్ స్పీకింగ్ కదా బాబీ 11:45 అయిపోవాలి
అది రికార్డ్ అయిందా రికార్డ్ అవుతుందా
దాన్ని ఇంకా మనం బ్రేక్ చేసాం ఇది 11:45 వరకు ఉన్నాం కదా బట్ ఇంక 11 నుంచి దీన్ని స్విచ్ అయ్యాం సో ఈజ్ జస్ట్ డూయింగ్ వీడియో అనమాట కానీ ఆ 11:45 తర్వాత 12:30 to 2:30 స్పెండింగ్ వెళ్ళాలంతాను మనకి లైవ్ అను వీడియో రెండు కావాలి సో హీ వాస్ సపోజ్ ఇది క్లోజ్ అయితే ఇటు మూవ్ అయ్యేవాడు
లైవ్ అయ్యేది వీడియో రికార్డింగ్ కూడా ఉంటుంది కదండి ఇట్స్ రికార్డింగ్
ఆ యాప్ వల్ల రికార్డ్ చేస్తారు కదా మన
లింక్ నో ప్లీజ్ ఓ ఇప్పుడు రికార్డ్ అవ్వట్లేదా
మనకి అక్కడ వచ్చేస్తుంది మన
లేదు అది అప్లోడ్
రికార్డ్ లో ఉంది
ప్లీజ్ కీప్ ఇట్ ఇన్ రికార్డ్ మళ్ళీ తీసేయండి కావాలంటే కానీ ఒకసారి పెద్ద ఇష్యూ అయింది దాని గురించి ఎందుకంటే అప్లోడ్ అయిన తర్వాత క్వాలిటీ పోయింది ఇక్కడ క్వాలిటీ ఏమో
రికార్డ్ చేస్తున్నానులేండి బట్ దట్ ఇస్ బ్యాక్ టు బ్యాకప్ అగైన్ దట్ వాస్
నో దట్ వాస్ ద థింగ్ అది ముందు అనుకుంటే లాస్ట్ టైం అదే చెప్పాను వి వాంట్ ద రికార్డింగ్ అండ్ లైవ్ ప్లీజ్
సో ఐ యామ్ మోర్ వరీడ్ అబౌట్ దెమ్ ఓవర్ షూటింగ్ బై an hour and a half where we need the guy back in Hoffman so I don't know what we need to do he has to either stop it and move there or because it's public speaking and that like
పబ్లిక్ స్పీకింగ్ స్పెల్లింగ్ స్టార్ట్ అవుతుందా
ఇంకా 12:30
ఇది మార్చొచ్చు కదా ఇప్పుడు
10 minutes మళ్ళీ వెనక్కి వస్తాం కదా నేను సో ఇది పట్టుకొని వెళ్ళి సెటప్కి పడుతుంది మాకు సో పైన ఉంది సో హీ వాజ్ ఆ ప్లాన్ ప్రకారం హీ వాజ్ సపోజ్ టు ఎందుకంటే అది అయిపోవాలి 11:45 అయిపోవాలి హీ వాజ్ సపోజ్ టు టేక్ ఇట్ మధ్యలో మనకి 1 hour లోపు మళ్ళీ ఇది వచ్చేస్తుంది
ఇది రికార్డ్ పెట్టచ్చని పైన కానీ ఇక్కడే ఉంచి పెడదామన్నా ఇప్పుడు ఇంకో కెమెరా ఉంటే అది రికార్డింగ్ కంటిన్యూ చేయొచ్చు అని ఇది మూవ్ చేయకుండా 3-4 కెమెరాస్ ఉన్నాయి అన్నారు కదా
ఒకటి వెళ్ళిపోయింది యాక్చువల్లీ ఇంకొక యాంగిల్ కోసం స్పెల్లింగ్ బీకి వెళ్ళింది పైన ఒకటి రన్ అవుతుంది కాకపోతే మన ఫ్రీడోకాస్ట్ సెటప్ తీసుకెళ్ళాలి మొత్తం సో బాబీ దగ్గర ఒకటి ఉంది నా దగ్గర ఒకటి ఉంది అక్కడ లేదనమాట సో వీ హ్యావ్ టు రిమూవ్ వన్ అండ్ మూవ్ ఓవర్ దేర్ ప్లాన్ ప్రకారం అది సో ఇది వెళ్తే నాకు ఫాలోయింగ్ ఈవెంట్ ఇక్కడ ఇష్యూ వస్తుంది సో ఐఎమ్ బ్రేకింగ్ ఏంటి ఫ్రీడోకాస్ట్ స్విచ్ ఆఫ్ చేసేసి వేయాలి రీసెట్ చేసుకోవాలి అది అదొకటి ఉంది మనకి ఇట్స్ నాట్ స్మూత్ సృజన్ వెళ్ళిపోయారు హాఫ్మన్కి సో ఐ టాక్ టు దెమ్ లెట్ మీ సీ వాట్ దే ఇట్స్ మోస్ట్లీ టైమే మనకి మిగతా ఏం ఇష్యూస్ ఓవర్లాపింగ్ అనేది అదే కాల్ చేస్తాను రాయ్ ఉన్నారా? Okay, 7200. Okay. Sir, I will talk to him.